All right, so one way to push this idea of freedom in the Tempest a bit further is to look at what happens when it collides with colonial power. Because at that point, the question isn't just who's free, it's who gets to decide what freedom means. So Caliban takes on the figure of a kind of scapegoat, right? Or, as it's been interpreted, Prospero's own dark side, the unfortunate dependent child that he can never rid himself of, if you look at it from his perspective. Or, you could say from a more post-colonial perspective, it's, the legacy of colonialist trauma that you've imposed upon a minority group, which you can never really kind of make amends for. I spoke of this a little bit with respect to the genres, but I just wanted to reiterate that one of the main themes of the Romance, but especially the Tempest, is this myth of renewal, which I think you have a little bit less in comedy and less in tragedy and less in history plays. This importance on renewal and resurrection. You have a life of discipline, for example, represented by Miranda's chastity, in contrast to Alonso's despair, or contrasted by. You have Gonzalo's speech that comes from Montaigne's essay on the cannibal, right? And of course, cannibal is an anagram of Caliban to a certain respect. It's closely, it's an anagram minus an N, right? If Caliban had two N's, then it would be a perfect anagram. How can Europeans who murder each other in the name of religion condemn savages for merely eating each other? This theme is also in Moby Dick to a certain respect. Fourth and fifth acts also give a renewed and ennobled vision of nature that we have is presented. And the play combines, of course, tragedy, comedy, history, both, quote, primitive and sophisticated, childlike and profound. There's also a lot of biblical echoes in this play. Iris's rainbow, similar to the rainbow God puts in the heaven after Noah's flood, as the promise or covenant that he will not destroy the world again. In Acts 27, St. Paul describes his shipwreck as not a hair perished, as sort of the miracle of that, which is sort of echoed here. Ariel echoes Isaiah 29:1. There's a contest of magic between Prospero and Sycorax, which is similar to Moses versus the Pharaoh, that story, if you're familiar with it. And also, Virgil had who was considered a Christian, as you know. Dante has Virgil, the figure, lead him through the Inferno and Purgatorio, or most of the Purgatorio, until Statius takes over, and then Beatrice takes over in Paradiso. But Virgil was considered a Christian based on his famous fourth eclogue, which was probably about Octavian Augustus being born, but he describes a new child being born that will be the renewal and hope of the entire world. Again, Virgil was writing about Augustus Octavian, but it happened to be written right around like 1 AD, and so, of course, we've all been like, wow, Virgil anticipated the birth of Christ. Or at least I shouldn't say we, people have thought that way. His Aeneid is about the personal cost of founding great civilizations. So Virgil's epic poem, the Aeneid, and again, those themes seem to be picked up in the Tempest. So what you start to see is that Caliban isn't just a character inside the play. He becomes a kind of structural problem that the play can't fully resolve. And that's part of why the Tempest is, or it just keeps generating these different interpretations.